The 80s were filled with popular rock bands from people like Kiss to Eddie Van Halen, with their big hits like I Was Made for Lovin' You and Jump. But rock wasn't the only genre that was thriving during this era. Metal took the US by storm with its crazy riffs and heavy feel. Metal really did make an impact on the music industry, but when it comes to 80s metal, there's one band that dominated the competition and had such a big impact on the genre no one else could compare. Pantera, Monsters of Rock. However, long before Pantera, in the factories of Birmingham, four young men were longing to flee their dreadful factory jobs. Their names were Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward, and they formed Earth Blues Company, Earth for short, in 1968. The band would change forever when Butler came to the band with a song idea, inspired by a bone-chilling ghost encounter he had one night. Butler, being a fan of horror films and the black magic-themed novels by Dennis Wheatley, he flirted briefly with the dark arts. But when he saw what he believed to be a dark figure at the foot of his bed one night, he cut his ties with them. With lyrics by Ozzy Osbourne, the group composed a song about the encounter, titling it Black Sabbath, after the 1963 Boris Karloff film. It produced a reaction in audiences unlike anything they'd ever seen, and they knew they'd created something special, as well as something they could speak to the hearts of the people. They had to change their name because there was already another band by the name of Earth, so they made the obvious decision of changing it to Black Sabbath. After Black Sabbath's huge success in the 1970s, they started to fade out when Ozzy left to start his solo career. Black Sabbath did not leave in spirit, however, because in 1981, Arlington, Texas, the Abbott brothers formed the heavy metal band Pantera. In reaction to Black Sabbath revolutionizing the music industry, Pantera went on to become the biggest and most influential US metal band, reforming the genre and popularizing heavier music. In 1981, Vinnie Abbott and Daryl Abbott are trying to get people to join their new band, Pantera. They managed to get their good high school friend Terry Glaze to play on guitar, as well as Donnie Hart for vocals and Tommy Bradford on bass. Bradford was shortly replaced by Rex Brown, and Hart left, leaving Glaze on vocals. In June of 1983, they released their first album, Metal Magic. It was a hit. They were getting gigs and selling cassette tapes of the album. They even made an appearance in the Metal Forces magazine in 1984, and later that year, their names even made it onto the front cover. Projects in the Jungle was their second album released in 1984 as well. They even went on their Heavy Metal Rules tour that year, making more appearances in popular magazines like Metal Forces and Midwest Militia. After their large success in the publishing of their third album, I Am the Night, Terry Glaze left the band in 1986. He left due to tensions within the band, and he went on to join Lord Tracy on lead vocals. Now that Glaze left, the glam rock sound left with him, and along came Phil Anselmo, and he took over on vocals. With the beginning of this new era and the abandonment of an old one, there would be many changes within the band, but not just in their music. Their music did change, of course, to a heavier feel, and that was made obvious with their heaviest album yet, Power Metal. The album was meant to be released in September of 1987, when Pantera signed a contract with Gold Mountain Records, but the distributor MCA Records deemed Power Metal's content too heavy and were not interested in releasing it unless it simmered down. They were hoping to get a major label so they could increase their exposure. While waiting for other possible labors, they kept writing new songs, such as Over and Out. After the contract was going nowhere, they had no choice but to release it on Metal Magic Records, which meant they had limited exposure, but they didn't have to sacrifice the album's content and were able to make it their own. They had a big following, and doing shows while writing new material would eventually pay off. Power Metal was finally released in February of 1988, and it was available on LP cassette tape and for the first time, the CD. It also had a great album cover with the band's new image, and with a name like Power Metal, it meant business. After the success of Power Metal, they struck gold again with their most popular album by far, Cowboys from Hell. This album was a new Pantera sound, and it was clear they wanted this to be their big debut.
And I'm Vinnie Paul, and this is You Got the Dime Bag. We just grew up on a healthy dose of Van Halen, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and Kiss, and something that runs deep in our blood, and no matter how successful the band became, we always wanted to be hard and to the core and exactly what we've always been about, and just because we've become successful doesn't mean we need to turn into a radio-friendly band or change our direction to appeal to the masses.
My boy sits down and play the drums. He plays the big sticks and he plays hard, Same thing for Philip, guts it. Same thing for me when I play the guitar, and Rex when he plays the bass. That's just the way we do it. We're aggressive, and it's a feeling that we achieve from it, Rip me open right now, it's what's inside.
Man, bottom line is it's reality. And Philip writes songs about things that are real to him, things that have happened to us collectively or to him in his life, and we've been able to be the most consistent band in rock and roll, over the past 7 years. We put out 4 records on an every 2-year cycle. We've toured at least 150 to 200 shows for each record, and we're still here today when a lot of bands are gone. It's the same 4 guys as when it started. It's
Never
a real rock
cancel
and
the
roll
show.
feel right there.
That's right.
New sound, new image, new attitude. But there was still a little power metal influence. But gone were the party and romantic songs, and now this album is darker and more chaotic than the last. Diamond, Vinny, and Rex delivered a devastating soundtrack to Phil's fast and brutal vocals, but they also made room for one of the best metal ballads, showing Phil's range and Diamond's amazing riff work, melodies and the trademark riff harmonics he's been using since the first record. The difference is now everyone would hear his talent. For the first time, the whole world could hear the birth of groove metal with that iconic Cowboys from Hell intro. This album would inspire 90s metal, but they weren't done just yet. They went on to make several more albums that would top the last, many achieving gold status or even platinum. But things weren't all good behind the scenes, because Phil was developing something that would tear the band apart. After their huge success in the 90s, one infamous day would mark the end of Pantera. At Ozfest in 2001, Phil was performing with Superjoint Ritual, making anti-Pantera speeches. There was never an official breakup of the band, Paul says. It never officially broke up. When we finished the last tour that we did in 2001, we really didn't think to talk to each other for about a year, and then Phil's Superjoint thing is going on full blast. Then he gets this down thing, and he goes out on Ozfest, and people from the crowd are obviously gonna yell Pantera. And when he would make all of these anti-Pantera speeches, we were like, where did this come from? That's really how the whole thing started. We tried to reach out to the dude. Dime reached out to him several times personally. After about a year and 8 months, me and Dime just said, you know what, I guess we don't have a band anymore, man. We better go start doing something else if we want to keep rocking and rolling. I got all these cool new riffs, and that's how Damage Plan came about. That and Phil's extreme heroin addiction caused the end of Pantera. By the time 2003 rolled around, all the original members found their own paths. While 2001 was a bad year for metal, the years prior were great, and were the start of a new era. In 1990, Virginia, 3 young men attending Commonwealth University were aspiring musicians, heavily inspired by Black Sabbath and Pantera. Mark Morton, Chris Adler, and John Campbell were these 3 men, and they played music at Adler's house. We would hang around the kerosene heaters, get really drunk, and write metal songs, Campbell says. After graduation, Morton moved to Chicago to pursue a master's degree, but the band continued on. A new guitarist, Abe Spear, had replaced Morton as the band retired its purely instrumental sound and added Randy Blythe on vocals. In 1999, Burn the Priest was officially formed, and they released their first album under the same name. Then, in 2000, they changed their name to Lamb of God and released their second album, New American Gospel. They went on to become a huge success and are still making music to this day, and changing metal for the better with every song. In conclusion, Pantera was the most popular and influential US metal band. They gave millions of people entertainment and inspired people to start their own bands, giving many people careers, continuing the cycle, and providing entertainment to even more people.